Today's video is going to be around base training for marathon or half marathon runners and how absolutely important this is to your marathon training. How funny would it be if you were paying a builder thousands of pounds or dollars to build your dream home, but the builder was rushing to finish, so they did not bother to put down any foundations? Up goes the house, it looks great, however, one big storm and the house completely collapses. Not great. Silly builder. However, most marathon and half marathon runners are just as guilty of this crime in their training. In their eagerness to progress, they go for quick wins of increased speed, and until the storm hits them in the marathon race day, they seem okay. But on race day, the wheels fall off, they complain of hitting the wall, they must need 76 extra gels, or maybe they just weren't wearing their lucky pants. Whatever the reason, in most cases, it's because they haven't built an effective base for their training. They may think they have, but the league doesn't lie at the end of the season. And whilst a marathon is hard, and whilst most people at the end of a marathon will struggle, if the wheels have completely fallen off, apart from a pacing strategy, normally an ineffective base building period or base building is the cause of that problem. So I'd like to share my top tips for building a great base. We must focus on developing the aerobic system when establishing a foundation for a marathon or half marathon performance. This term might sound familiar. You probably heard it bandied around all over the place, but what does it truly mean? And how does it relate to the ecosystem of our energy within our body? It can get very complicated. So really, I just want to keep it fairly simple and practical within this video. The aerobic system refers to the energy system in our bodies that utilizes oxygen to convert carbohydrates and fats into energy. This is distinct from our anaerobic system, which kicks into gear for short bursts of energy and operates independently of oxygen or without oxygen. When we discuss aerobic, we are essentially talking about oxygen usage. It's worth noting that the aerobic system can use both carbohydrates and fats as a fuel source. The efficiency of this process depends on various factors and can evolve with training. So you may have heard of being fat fueled and things like that. We don't want to delve into the nitty-gritty of the details of fat adaptation or its merits over carbohydrates at this moment in time, because it can get confusing. And what's important to understand that your aerobic system hinges on oxygen, and when it functions optimally, it uses carbohydrates and fats. That yes, you've got more fat stores than carbohydrate stores within your body, and with time your body can become more efficient and use those fat stores, which in turn means that you can run faster and more efficiently. But for the sake of this video, don't get distracted for now. Let's focus on getting the fundamentals down and dirty. Perhaps the most critical insight is the realization that your aerobic system can be developed. However, unlike a car engine, your aerobic system can actually increase in capacity. You don't have to take it out and put another one in like a car. It will actually grow if you do the right things, which we will come to in a moment. A key term in this context is VO2 max. It serves as an indicator of aerobic endurance, but don't get too wrapped up in that, because it can be influenced by genetic factors. There's lots of evidence of people with low VO2 maxes doing amazing endurance races and people with higher ones not so much. And of course, very few of us actually know our actual VO2 max because we haven't had a proper VO2 max test. So you'll hear VO2 max bandied about, but don't get too hung up on it. What is important is to know the purpose of base building. So why should we focus on base building? Well, base building primarily involves developing your aerobic system As mentioned earlier, it's like laying down strong foundations for the house. The better your foundations, the larger and sturdier the house you can build on top. Once these aerobic foundations are in place, speed work and other types of training can be performed more effectively and have more positive impact. It's not that anaerobic work doesn't have a place in training, but a common mistake, as I say, is prioritizing it over aerobic development in the early stages. It's like trying to build this magnificent house, as I've mentioned, on way too shaky foundation. So with a very basic understanding of the importance of aerobic base, the question rises, how do we build it? Well, there are a number of ways. One way that you'll be well aware of is the long, slow distance run, normally religiously performed on a Sunday. Often we do this at a slow, steady pace. It's normally 60 to 75% of your maximum heart rate could hold an easy conversation. The distance of this is built up over a period of time. So the next thing you've got is like easy run. So these would be done throughout the week, probably slightly higher intensity than the long run, but still very, very conversationally. These might be 30, 40, 50 plus minutes. Yet again, like the long, easier run, they would be built up. Then you would build in maybe some tempo work, and this would be done comfortably hard, but not pushing it so much that you start to go into anaerobic work. So all your work is on a spectrum of aerobic base. So you've got from the very, very easy, your long run, very, very conversational, easy, what we call building runs, which would be still conversational with a little bit more intensity, and then tempo runs with something that would be comfortably hard, but you're not really pushing in to those higher zones. So based on zones, it would be like zone 1, zone 2, a little bit of zone 3 from an effort perspective, but you're not going into those zones 4 and 5 so quickly. Now, what I get asked a lot of the time is, when are we building base? And most plans will have a base phase, and it really depends on how much running you've done. What is your foundation like? Going back to the house again, have you laid good foundations? You don't have to lay loads of foundations if your foundations are already pretty good there already. If this is your first marathon, then more so. But it's important to remember that base building is an ongoing process, in my opinion. The benefits of aerobic work take longer to materialize compared to, say, a speed workout. I mean, some aerobic workouts, you won't feel the benefit in your body as an adaptation for up to 6 weeks. So you can see that it takes time. This is why I often say to my runners that many runners will overestimate what they can achieve in one training block, say a 12 to 16 week marathon or half marathon training block, but massively underestimate what they can do in 2 to 3 training blocks, so say over a year or 2, because in that time they're going to be doing speed workouts, but they're still building up, if they're doing it right, that base. So as that base gets bigger, the foundation gets bigger, what you can build on it gets bigger, you get more efficient, you become a better runner, you start to be able to probably utilize more fat because you're fitter. Because if you're running too hard, your body will not become fat adapted. You will burn carbohydrate. This is why in a race, it's very rare that you burn predominantly fat, because you're going to be working harder in most cases. So you need to get your body used to running those easier runs, then your body will utilize fat and you will become more fat adapted. I hope this has been useful. If it has, we have, of the time of making this video and probably ongoing, a free 10-day challenge, which I'm going to be covering lots of this sort of stuff. And what we're doing is basically taking your generic plan, and over 10 days, we're kind of personalizing it for you. I'll be sharing with you how I would do that, so that at the end of the 10 days, you can walk away with a more personalized approach to your training, a self-coached training. Now, you might be thinking, why am I doing this? Well, A lot of runners will obviously say, well, I prefer not to have the friction of that. Do you offer that service? Which of course I do, and I will be making that offer at the end of the 10 days. But I always know there's runners out there that are lone wolves. They're always going to run on their own, either because of financial reasons or because of preferences. And if that's the case, you will walk away more informed and more able to get better results from your training plans. So I will leave a link somewhere around this video for that. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and if nothing else, please take your base training really seriously, because it will really give you so many benefits over time. Bye for now.